everybody.
I'm Scott.
I'm John.
And we're married. This is the,
What's that?
Sweet Tea No Shade podcast. Oh my god, I was just watching, we've been watching knitting podcasts all weekend. John's actually been watching knitting podcasts with me, believe it or not. And so I've got everybody else's podcast name in my head and not ours.
It's podcast confusion.
Yes. So we're then Sweet Tea No Shade knitting podcast, and it's a podcast about knitting. It is not a podcast about
our cats
animal taxidermy
as much as it is,
or how to make sweet tea.
No,
because I am an expert on that because it's extremely complicated, and plus I don't drink it with sugar anymore because it's, you know, I drink like 9 gallons of it a day, so instead I sweeten it with chemicals, which is much better.
it's a different damage.
Yeah. You look good, you're just like rotting your insides.
Right.
So, I've got a pile of
anyway.
junk here. As you can see, we had positioned the camera differently before, but, so you couldn't see it, but,
we also have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we do have a lot of stuff. I think it's been like
5 weeks. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
So I think our last one was right before Thanksgiving, when we announced the cow winners.
Has it been that long? I can't remember. Anyway, I think...
Or maybe right after Thanksgiving?
I don't remember.
I
literally don't remember.
If only we had a place we could look and see what was posted.
I was going to look that up and then I forgot to do it. The other thing is, this is probably going to be a multiple part episode because I don't want
to
have like a 3-hour episode.
Right. It's
not that we think we're so cool and everybody, but there's just like people have given us feedback on what they like for us to talk about, and we like talking about it, and it's fun stuff. And
we're just doing the Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows part 1 and 2.
Right.
It's the thing they do these days.
Yes.
Kids
what was
love
the other one that was
Hunger Games.
Oh, The Hobbit. It was like 5 parts.
Yeah, that was an abomination.
Like a 50-page book. So,
we're not doing 3 parts. That'd be a bit much. I hope.
Yeah. So we're going to do probably 2 parts and space them out a little bit. God, there's something that I want to say, and I keep forgetting what it is, which is typical of me.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. And we, since our last podcast, we have had, I think, Christmas and New Year's.
Yes.
And so there's some fun stuff that happened over those time periods, and so we thought we'd talk about those first.
Mm-hmm.
So for Christmas, we spent Christmas in Denver,
mm-hmm.
which is in Colorado, and it's the state of Colorado. Don't laugh at me. There are people who don't live in the United States who don't watch this.
I'm being chauvinistic. Sorry.
Yes, you are. Dirty American.
I know. Yankee pig dog.
Yankee what?
Yankee pig dog.
What's that?
Oh, it's just one of the things you always hear in like I don't know. That's just a funny thing.
So we'll talk about that first.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we'll focus on the knitting stuff related to that. We're not going to go on and tell you about all of our Christmas shenanigans. But so we were in Denver,
mm-hmm.
and while we were there, so John's whole family lives there.
Mm-hmm.
His mom and his brother and his sister and their families. And so, why don't you do you want to talk about a little bit about it?
So it was very fun. So on the 23rd, we all did, my sister, my brother, and my brother-in-law and I, we did a 10K race in downtown Denver. It was called the Oh My God, It's So Freezing race. It was actually the Jingle something.
The Carol?
Oh, the Christmas Carol run. But it wasn't as cold as it could have been, but it was still pretty cold. But we all finished, and fortunately, we had someone to drive us.
Yeah, so I could have I don't know if I could have run the race. I haven't been running. I used to be a runner, and I haven't been running in several years because I hurt my back, but I think my back actually might be better and in a place where I could start running again.
Yay.
I just haven't had the gumption to do that. So I decided to be the chauffeur.
Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh my God. So my family is very, concerned about Scott sometimes. And like, oh my God, Scott.
It's concerned about me?
Yes. What are you going to do while they run this 10K? Oh, he's such a martyr.
Yeah.
He's such a good husband.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be so bored and tired while they run a 10K.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no.
No.
Someone has a plan.
I found myself something to do, which was go explore yarn shops in Denver while they ran a 10K in the freezing weather. So we had looked at different places in Denver to go, yarn shops, and the first one that the one that we kind of settled on that was near where they were going to be running the race and everything was one called Lamb Shop. Tee as in lamb chop. Took me a while to get there. Or took me a while to get that joke is what I mean. So I dropped them off. I hadn't had any coffee or food or anything, so my brain wasn't connecting all the way, so I Googled yarn shop instead of lamb shop. Like, totally forgot the pun and everything. So I drove, and it wasn't in the location that I thought it was. I don't know Denver, like, it gave me an address, and I used my phone, the GPS on my phone, to take me there. I don't know Denver well enough to be like, well, that's not the place that we looked at online. I get there, and it's literally a cubby hole tucked under a parking garage or a parking ramp. So that's another. So half of the podcast for me is like what people in other countries or other parts of the country call things. That's half the reason I watch knitting podcasts. So
is it like? Do you remember when we were in South America and they had all those like small, tiny yarn stores that were kind of like?
Yes, that's exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
So it was tucked inside of what we call in Minnesota. They call it a parking ramp. Yeah, I think in California they call it a parking structure. And
where I grew up, it's called a parking garage.
Parking garage.
When I first moved to Minnesota, the term parking ramp confused. I thought it was like a ramp people parked on, and I'm like, what is this?
But it's just those concrete structures that you drive up, and it's parking. So anyway, it was out. I'm gonna try this podcast not to say I'm gonna put in a picture. Or I'll put in a picture here because it's redundant. But because it's like people are looking at the picture. Anyway, I'm rambling. So it wasn't open, and it was like literally like a cubby hole inside a parking ramp. And so I was like, I don't think this is the place that we intended to go. So I went over and got myself a coffee, got myself a muffin, and I was like, oh, wait, it was Lamb Shop, not Yarn Shop. So I Googled that and drove to that. So I went in, and I can't remember the owner's name, but it was like, it was the 23rd, right?
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot going on.
It was 23rd, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So, and
it was freezing. It was a Friday or a Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah, it was Saturday. So there wasn't that many. Well, there was like nobody there, and so I got to talk to her for a while. And they have a coffee. It's like a coffee shop inside the yarn shop, which is really cool. And so I asked about local dyers, and they had a really nice selection of stuff. And it was a really cool. I wish I could remember what the owner's name was. I looked online and I couldn't find it, but she was really, really nice. And they have tons of classes there. That's kind of like one of their big draws, I think, is that they have a lot of classes, and she gives private instruction and stuff. So, ended up at the Lamb Shop, and I bought a few different things. You didn't buy anything because you were running, so I get to show my stuff.
Yeah.
So, the first thing was I bought. This is MJ Yarns. It's a skein of. Simple sock fingering weight, and it's 75% superwash Corriedale, which so much of the time you see it's superwash merino. So Corriedale, I'm assuming, is a different breed of sheep, which is kind of cool.
Sounds like a dog. It probably isn't.
Feels. I don't know if this is true of Corriedale. It feels very squishy, like even more squishy than.
It's a little more, I guess, tensile strength if you're going to use.
I don't think that's true. It's just more squishy.
Squishy.
Tensile strength?
Well, it sort of pops back. It's got a little more
push
back when you squeeze
springy.
You said squishy.
Oh, I did say squishy. Damn it. It's springy. Yeah, it's
Springy.
Anyway, it's 75% superwash Corriedale and 25% nylon.
Is that hand dyed? Is that the local dyer?
Yes. He's in Lafayette, Colorado.
Okay.
But I think he has a pretty big. He's on Instagram. I kind of did some research on him. His name's Jonathan Berner. He does a lot of. I think he sells in stores all over the country. Mm-hmm. He didn't have anywhere in Minnesota that he was selling, if I remember correctly. Anyway, it's NJ Yarns, and the colorway is called Mice and Men. Mm-hmm. And I just think I just thought it was a cool color. It's sock yarn. I love knitting socks, and it's kind of a thicker sock weight. I mean, the yarn
feels
weight,
a little sturdier.
Well, the width of the yarn. The diameter of the, I don't know how you say that, the yarn, it looks bigger than your typical, than some fingering weight, like fingering weight I'm doing socks with right now, because it's like 100 grams and 380 yards. So it is a bigger yarn than typical sock weight, but I'm excited to use that. Then there was one called Apple Fiber Studio. Oh, that's kind of cool when you lay it down there. It's people can see it. The next one was, I just really loved this color, and it's coming out on the camera true to color. It's very vibrant blue. It's Apple Fiber Studio, which is in Bellingham, Washington. Bellingham or Bellingham?
Bellingham.
Okay.
I'm 40% sure.
So it's called, the colorway is Tide Pools, and it's Yana Gold or Jana Gold, which is a DK, 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. So people often call that MCN, merino cashmere nylon. What?
That's just funny. MCN.
Oh yeah, MCN, merino cashmere nylon.
Of course.
So it's 231 yards per 100 grams, and so I was thinking of making a hat out of this.
Yeah.
Or a cowl or something, because it's got that cashmere in it, and it's DK.
Be really pretty.
And yeah, so got that, and then this was the really fun. This is so not something I would typically buy, but it's called. It's called. Oh no, this is from, I bought a little bag, Notions bag, because I can't go anywhere without buying a Notions bag. Of course, I had the label and now I don't know where it is, but it's, I kind of need the label. Maybe it'll say in the pattern. So it's Cat Mountain Yarns, I think, and it was a local Denver yarn. And it's this big skein, and it's got 5 or 8 different yarns in it, in the hank. So if you undo it, it's got different. So I can't remember if I bought the 5 one or the 8 one. Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I bought the 8 one, 6, 7, 8. So this one I think I'm.
So it's different yarns, but they're all with the same sort of like sort of purple to green ombre, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's got like mohair. It's got, I don't even remember what all. It's got this weird like yarn that's like loopy. It's got some that's got like a speckle base. Let me hold the green up a little better. I'm sure I'll put pictures in, but it's got all these different things. Anyway, I just thought it was. She did a good job of selling it to me, is basically what happened. Because it's a bunch of cool different yarns, and then it comes with a free pattern, and you basically stripe the different yarns to create a shawl.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So I just thought it was fun, because it's stuff that I would never buy, like mohair, and this weird loopy, whatever this is, and the speckle, and there's a tweed. It's just a fun way to play with a bunch of different yarns. So, yeah. So I'm excited to do that. And probably be a gift or something. And then, yeah. So that was my trip. So I got out of there without spending too many thousands of... It was funny because she rang me up and she said, okay, that'll be $3,425. And I said, oh, well, that's fine. That's less than I thought it would be. And she said... she's like, well, I'm a local business. I need the support or whatever. So she was gonna charge me, 30 times what it actually was. So anyway, that was fun.
That was very fun.
It was a very fun trip. Very nice store. And then, so we had a wonderful time in Denver.
Are we gonna talk about the Nephew stuff?
Yeah. So for those of you who've watched our podcast before, we have John's nephews. They all play musical instruments. Two of them play trombone and one plays cello, which just sound awesome together.
Yeah,
especially when they're playing different songs all at the same time.
Yes.
Go ahead. What?
They had an impromptu concert for us.
Yes, they had an impromptu concert, so that was kind of fun.
And that I might have instigated.
And we totally appreciated the struggle of when your uncles are like, "Hey, give us a concert," because when you're in school or you're in a group or whatever, you only know your part. It's not like you're learning a solo piece. Right. So, like, people always say, because John currently is, and I've been in the past in the Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus, and we're like, hey, sing something for us. And it's like, well, I can sing you the tenor one line from a song, and he can sing you the baritone. Anyway. So the same thing kind of happened with them, where it's like, oh, I can play the baritone.
The trombone part, the trombone which is
part. And then Patrick is one of John's nephews, and he's Patrick of the famous podcast
Daniel and Patrick
Craziness, which we've talked about before, which is like 30-second clips of them being silly kids, which is it's funny. So
right, and there might be some clips of them trying to get more viewers.
Yes, at the end. So we're going to put some stuff in at the end of either this episode. Maybe we'll space it out between this episode and that. But the funniest part is that John tries to teach Aaron. So John has Luke, who's 14, and then Aaron and Patrick, who are twins, and they're 10.
Going on 11.
Yeah. And so Aaron, who's one of the 10-year-olds, we told him we were going to tie him up and force him to knit. And then we realized that tying him up would make it so that he couldn't use his hands. So we have a pretty humorous teaching Aaron to knit segment at the end.
He did really well.
You just had him do the yarn.
I was knitting, and he was just doing the loops for me because I figured,
baby steps.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. So we had a good time, and then we flew back to Minnesota for like 2 days, and then we went to Wisconsin. You want to introduce that?
Yeah. So last year we have a group of friends that we went away and did something for New Year's with, and this year we did like a vacation rental or something like that.
Vacation rental by owner, VRBO.
Yeah. Which
is like Airbnb.
So for a long time I've always wanted to see House on the Rock, which is this. I can't even describe it. It's this guy who built this.
Well, before you say anything,
I
wanted to mention there was a viewer. We mentioned we were going to see House on the Rock, and there was a viewer last time who had commented. His name was Beck K, or her name Beck K. The House on the Rock. I went there once when I lived in the Midwest. Over 10 years later, that place still haunts my dreams. I can't even explain it to people. There's a giant squid, a room full of tubas, and an Old West town.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's what happens when you have eccentrics with a lot of money who can just do whatever they want. It's pretty amazing. But so anyway, I've been wanting to go see it for a long time. So he's basically rented this house in south central Wisconsin about, I don't know.
It's I think we determined it was like 30 miles west of Madison, Wisconsin.
Maybe a little further.
Okay.
Maybe like 40 or
50 miles west of Madison, Wisconsin.
So,
which was like, it was like a 3-hour drive?
3.5, yeah.
3.5
Once you got on the scary, terrifying country roads.
Yeah, and it was like bajillions of degrees below zero here. So 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing point in Fahrenheit, and it was
consistently
negative,
11 below.
Yeah. I don't even know what that is Celsius, but
yeah.
I think when you get to like negative 20 or something, that's when Celsius and Fahrenheit meet. But anyway, go ahead.
Sure. So we rented this, I guess, farmhouse, for lack of a better word. It was really, really nice. And then we invited a bunch of our friends to come down, and the caveat is that while we were in the house, we all had to do crafts. So obviously Scott and I knit.
So 7 men in a house, in a farmhouse in the middle of Wisconsin, in 10 below weather crafting.
Yeah, it was. We were really cool.
I don't think that happened anywhere else in the world on New Year's Day. Or New Year's weekend.
I don't know. So Scott and I knit. Our friend Matthew.
Matthew? Why are you calling him Matthew?
Because whatever. Our friend Matt and his husband Jeff. Matt was doing embroidery.
Wait. You're calling Matt Matthew and calling Jeffrey Jeff?
You're being weird.
You're calling them not by their names.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Our friends M and J. Mm-hmm. So Matthew, Matt, Matthias was doing embroidery, and his husband Jeffrey was quilting, and Matt also quilts, so that was fun. And they actually did this whole thing. He'd actually gotten to the part where he was actually doing the quilting part of the quilting, which is really cool. And then our other friend Eric, he bought a couple latch hook kits, and he was doing his latch hook.
He had a cornucopia, he was latch hooking.
Yeah. And then our friend Steve, he did coloring books.
He was coloring pictures in the book Unicorns Are Jerks.
Yeah.
And it was all the things that unicorns do, like text and talk during movies and stuff like that. It was pretty funny coloring.
And then our other friend Charles was doing dramaturgy.
That was his crap. He was reading.
Yeah, he was reading. But, so some of the crafts are more craftier than others, but it was really fun. And then we see House on the Rock, which was bonkers,
so let's see
amazing,
if we can,
crazy.
Yeah, let's see if we can sum it up quickly. There's an outcropping on a hill. A rock outcropping on a hill. The guy decided to basically build a treehouse on steroids on top of it.
Right.
Never lived there, but would visit it.
And here's what we learned, kids. Houses built, it's literally, you go in the house and you touch the rock. When it is really cold out, that house is freezing.
There was no insulation and no heating inside of it, and it was
little space heaters every now and again. So
it was like -5 outside, I think, about that time. It was freezing.
So, and then also it's a Christmas celebration, so there's like Santa Clauses everywhere.
So anyway, I was going to summarize quickly, and then we can go back to the details. Rock outcropping, treehouse on steroids is basically what it was. It was more substantial than a treehouse, but that's to give you the concept. It's like there's no like house. I mean, the other thing is the most of the house was like less than 5. It was like 5 feet ceiling.
Yeah.
So it was like anyway. I'm deviating again. So you got the house. And then he built a smaller house, which was supposed to be like his way
proof
to
of concept.
Proof of concept for like how other people could do it. Then
he built an infinity room. Which is this
bizarre cantilevered thing that you think you're going to die when you go in.
Yeah, actually, it hit every single one of my phobias.
Then he realized that he had a tourist trap on his hands, so he started building these giant warehouses where he put like an old-timey city street. He built like a giant whale and squid fighting like statue.
This is like, so the giant squid and whale statue is 6 stories high.
Right. 6 stories.
It's ridiculous.
And then he's got like the world's largest carousel.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's inside, and it doesn't have any horses on it. It has these demonic... Well, I guess they're not demonic. There's some demonic looking things,
right?
But they're just freaky.
Yeah.
And then the whole inside of the rest of the room is covered by these like mannequins from the 70s with wings on them. Yeah. I mean, it's just bizarre. And then what other? Oh, and then the other big thing that he's got there everywhere is these pneumatic. They're like musical instruments that uses pneumatics to play. So like
orchestras of this.
Orchestras. Like you've got an entire orchestra set up with violins and all this stuff. And the pneumatics don't work anymore really. So it's like really out of tune, or they've got like piped in music playing instead of the instrument. It's so weird.
It is the most bizarre thing.
But if you've ever read the book American Gods, or I think there's a TV show now or a miniseries or something. I can't remember because it's been so long since I've read it, but parts of it take place
and that's the reason why I knew about it. Because I'd read this book, I guess, 15 years ago, and he talks about House on the Rock, and I was like, oh wow, what, Neil Gaiman has such an amazing imagination, and then found out it was real, and it is crazier than it is in the book. He actually took stuff out. He was like, no one will believe that.
And Neil Gaiman is the author, and he lives here in Minneapolis. So anyway. So while we were there, we took the opportunity to go to a mill. Which, oh crap, somebody, I forgot to put their name down, but somebody had mentioned it to me in the comments of our last video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Blackberry Ridge. She's, I think it was she, I can't remember her name, but she said, go check this out. Yeah. So, it was Blackberry Ridge Woolen Mill. The description on their website says we're a family-owned spinnery located in the hills of Vermont Township in south central Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I mean it's
Virginia Township or Vermont Township. None of these towns are incorporated. Yeah, in the United States, I don't know if they do this in other countries, but it's like, I think, what does it mean to be not incorporated? It's like you don't have a mayor, you don't have a government, right?
Yeah, you're just a collection of houses. People living near to each other. I think.
Right. So we went there, and so we figured out where it was, and we found out it was open. Because it was New Year's Eve, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, Christmas Eve.
New Year's Eve, yeah.
New Year's Eve. So we drove there, and, you go up. It's very hilly in this part of Wisconsin. So we drove up to the top of this hill, and we're like, okay, there's a house there, and then something that looks like it's probably a mill or something. But, like, I didn't see any cars.
Right.
Except for one over by the house, and we're just like, okay, this is how we die. We're going into the woods in the middle of nowhere. This is how we die. But then we saw a sign a door with a credit card sign on it.
Right,
so
like, okay,
that's a good sign. So we went in, and it was really, really cool.
It was really cool.
It was a different experience than if you were to go to a local yarn shop, because it was a shop that
was attached to a mill, basically. Right. So they had. We actually, I think I got some pictures. We met the people running it, and they let us go in the back, and they showed us the whole, machines they use to turn the roving.
Well, they have a carding machine, so
right.
They put the fleeces there, and then after it cards it, I think there's a step where it turns it into roving, because I think you have to, somehow with the carding, it lays all the fibers in the same direction, and that's what creates the roving.
Gotcha.
And then you either hand or by machine spin the roving into yarn.
Yeah, it was
don't know if that's right.
Really cool, and it was just interesting because the machines were, almost original machines, because I guess the technology for carding, probably about 100 years old.
She said it was 100 years old.
Yeah, that technology hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool, and they were really, really nice, and we bought some yarn. Do you want to go first?
Sure. And the thing
oddly enough, we bought some yarn.
I know, right? So the thing about the place was that I asked them how, what are their most of the work that they do, and she said that I think it was the daughter of the couple that owns it, it's the daughter of the family that owns it, and she said that most of it is people who have sheep, and they send the fleeces to them to be spun, and then they send them their yarn back.
Yeah.
So they pay them basically to spin it into yarn, and then they send it back. So but they do have some that they spin and keep and dye, and So this is what I bought. The thing that I really liked, or that I kind of latched onto there, was the natural stuff. So you have different percentage of the white fibers from the dark fibers, and you can make the different colors. This is all not dyed, and so I was kind of latched onto the natural, non-dyed stuff, because I've never really seen that so much at a local yarn shop, or at least I haven't looked for it, and they had a really cool collection of stuff. So I'm going to talk about this one in a minute. So I bought 4 skeins. Probably should have bought more. But because I'm ultimately going to make a sweater out of this. 4 skeins of their Sport Silk blend, which was 75% wool, 25% silk, and it's 350 yards per skein. So it's a sport weight. And I was going to buy a DK because that would be easier to make a sweater out of, but their DK, they didn't have all of it. So this is the color. It's a natural dye, and I can't remember now. 350 yards per skein, 125 grams per skein. Dark gray is the color, but I can't remember. They had the percentages of fibers and stuff in it, but anyway, this is, I bought 4 skeins of this, but it's very sheepy, rusticy.
Yeah.
Yarn. It's very fun. I've never worked with this kind of...
Well, undyed yarn, it's really, I mean, you don't even think about that, right?
Yeah.
That happens.
And then the last thing I bought, I just really liked the color combos, black and red. And it's Mermaid plus fingering. So it's their fingering weight, 3-ply, 420 yards, 80% wool, 20% nylon, 114 grams. Cranberry's the colorway. So I just, fingering weight yarn, I can always make socks, because it did have nylon in it, right? I think it did.
Yeah.
But I just really like the color combo, so yeah. So I bought that. Yeah. So why don't you show yours?
Sure. Oh, there it is. So I got a bunch of. I don't know what we do with it, but they had a whole bunch of their sport weight tied together in this little hank. And so
because it's the same yarn that I bought, but it's dyed.
Right, so this is all dyed yarn, and so what I decided I'm going to do, and we'll see how this works, but I basically got enough to make a sweater. And I don't know how I'm going to do this, I don't know what the pattern is, I'm thinking some sort of stripey thing, but this is, Sport Silk Blend, 75% wool, 20% wool, silk, and this is the natural dark gray.
Oh, I bought 5 skeins. I forgot to put you bought 5 skeins, or you bought 6 skeins and I bought 5 skeins.
Well, I guess that's not going to make my sweater. So anyway...
Yeah, that's not, because
okay.
That man was like, why did I only buy 4 skeins?
Right, you did. And this one is, same thing, this is 25% silk.
Time out, Betty Ann, I did not just steal John's yarn. Betty Ann is always my mother, Betty Ann, she's always accusing me of being on these episodes and stealing John's yarn in one way or another.
It's okay.
That was my yarn.
It's community property, we're married.
Yeah.
And this is called Loden, and it's kind of a green-ish color. This is called Gold, and it's kind of a russety gold? I don't know. Rusted's not the right word. This...
Well, it looks... Yeah.
This is more of the... I got 2 things of Loden, so I think what I'm going to do is maybe use
no,
this...
you got 3 of Loden.
No, I didn't.
Is this not Loden?
Girl, I'm the colorblind one.
Oh, yeah.
So I think this might be like the top and the bottom of the scarf. So maybe the yoke and the bottom of the scarf. And sweater. And then do the rest of the colors in some sort of stripe pattern. So this is dark turquoise. This is...
That you bought separately, I think, didn't you?
No.
That's not the same thing.
But it's still silk blend 2-ply. So I think...
okay. Because that's black.
Yeah. This is just a black.
I don't remember why you bought that.
I don't know.
Is it to go with that?
Yes. Remember, because there were all these in a hank, and I need to get like
right.
one extra one.
That's right.
And you sort of talked me out of the crazy color, like the bright orange. And this is called Forest. So anyway, somehow these will all come together and make a sweater.
Yay!
Pattern...
TBD.
Pattern untitled. And then I also got... They have this really cool yarn. Oh my god, look at... We'll clean this all out in a few minutes. So this is a hand-painted skein. Same sort of... It's all wool, and it's a medium weight, 2-ply. And so what I liked about this...
I think it's a DK.
Yeah. So... I love that. The blue and the cream and the...
Yeah, it's coming out more gray.
Yeah.
It's definitely blue.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, that part's definitely... It's denim-y blue. It's kind of gray, but...
So, I think I'm going to make a cowl or something like that for one of our friends. I don't know how to do those.
I think you should keep doing it and see what happens. I only know how to do this because I've watched people on podcasts do it after they show their yarn. Then I watch them do it.
I'm like, this isn't working.
So, yeah, so we bought, and there's probably a better way to do it than what I'm doing. I don't know anything.
Oh my god, you're ruining my yarn. No.
I'm totally ruining your yarn.
So it was super fun, and it was just, I don't know. I mean, one of the things I like about yarn and knitting is like that ability to sort of get stuff that feels very local. And this is, you know, very, I mean, the sheep aren't from central Wisconsin as far as I know, but, you know.
Well, it could be. I mean,
could be.
We have no idea where the sheep are from, actually.
Yeah, they should let us know. Are these locally grown
And actually, I
sheep?
said it was in Vermont Township. I think we drove through Vermont Township. Or no, it's
in the hills of Vermont Township.
Sorry, Vermont Township I think is where it's located. The mailing address is Mount Horeb, which I think is the closest incorporated town.
Right. So it was really, really fun. The woman was really, really nice. Just super cool. And just like the sort of place that like I did a little Google of yarn places near Spring Green. This popped up and you know, we went.
Mm-hmm.
It was very fun.
Yes. So that was Christmas and New Year's.
Yes, it was.
Oh, do you want to talk about your Christmas-related, knitting-related Christmas present I got you?
Yes. So, Christmas. So, Scott, I got Scott Shania Twain tickets.
And it's like 20th row or 25th row or something to see Shania Twain. So.
And so we're going to do that. So that's what I got for Scott. Scott went all knitting crazy on me. So, what?
Well, it all started because we got an email from Stephen B. Now, Stephen B is very smart because he sends, I think, an email every day with different stuff in it. And I'm like, I saw this email and I was like, oh God, I have to go get this right now. Well, I didn't have time, and so then by the time I went, what he's about to show was sold out. But
right. So anyway, Scott got me a couple things. He got me, first of all, this Knits for Nerds. It's all these patterns that are Star Wars, Star Trek, Game of Thrones inspired. Buffy. So he bought me 2 of these. One of them I can't find right now.
Geek Knit.
So anyway, he got me 2 of these, and it's like funny because I've always looked at these. They have them in Stephen B, and I've always looked at them while they're there. And so he got me that, which is so these
They're
2
both
books
autographed by Joan of Dark.
Joan of Dark. And so I don't know if we're gonna show pictures, but like the pictures of like the models are like Neil Gaiman, Patrick Rothfuss, the people from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Who's the guy who wrote Game of Thrones?
Oh, George R. R. Martin.
George R. R. Martin. It's
like,
all these really awesome people.
So this, anyway, they're really fun stuff. And then, so Scott, there's a pattern for a stuffed direwolf. And so Scott got me
which is the big wolves on Game of Thrones.
So Scott got me this amazing, so you knit it, held with these 2, are these mohair?
Yeah.
These are
mohair and silk.
Mohair and silk, and they're from...
And the pattern calls for one color for the body and a different color for the legs.
So it's Shibui knits.
Yeah, Shibui.
And it's Silk Cloud, I think is a colorway. Oh no, Fog.
No, that's the type of yarn, or the
So
line.
it's called Fog, and it's 300 yards. It's so pretty, and this is called...
Is that Shibui?
No, this is...
Yeah, that's Shibui as well. It's
Shibui.
Just a different label.
Yeah. And this is called Silk Cloud.
It's the same line. It's just they changed their labeling since.
No, but what's the colorway? Grounds. So, I'm super excited to do this because I'm going to... So, I've never done the whole holding 2 yarns, and there's a project I am planning to do sometime in the future, which is holding 3 yarns. 3 yarns.
Which sounds crazy to me.
I know. That was why I got I had to to buy a back order of Vogue knitting to get it, which is how you know you've gone into the deep, deep, deep end of knitting.
You're buying back orders of Vogue knitting.
I know. So anyway,
was it not on Ravelry?
No. You could the pattern was on Ravelry. No, the sort of there was a page for the pattern on Ravelry, but you couldn't buy the pattern through Ravelry. You can even buy it through the designer's website
because it was exclusive for Vogue knitting,
right?
And
it was
been less than 12 months.
Right. It was late winter 2016 or something like that, or 2017, and so I had to go order that from Vogue Knitting.
Right.
So all kinds of fun stuff that I will never ever knit in that. Anyway, that was really fun. So so this is my practice, and then I can make a stuffed animal, which I'm excited about since my unicorn turned out so well. So that was part one of the gift. Well, part two, because the books were part one. And then, so we've talked about this before. Stephen B has this whole yarn wall of nerd-inspired knits. So they have ones called I Love You, I Know. They have Doctor Who-inspired stuff. I actually used some of them for one of my finished objects today. So they have this colorway, and this is what Scott got me for you. You can tell the story how you got it.
Yeah.
And it is called Shut Up, Wesley!
Unhank it and show
Oh my god, it's amazing. So this is a Star Trek The Next Generation thing, and so it sort of emulates the colors of Wesley Crusher's uniform. It's got the gray with the...
And he had 3 colored stripes at the top of his collar, right?
Yeah. It's called Shut Up, Wesley!
Which is famous, hilarious scene from one of the episodes.
Yes. So anyway, made me really, really happy. He done good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fix that. Okay. So the story is that I had seen the color or the yarn advertised in the email from Stephen B, and I was like, oh my god, it's called Shut Up, Wesley. I have to go buy it because it's just, I knew John would think it was funny. Plus it's really pretty yarn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really pretty. So before we go any further, I think that it's
Wild Hair Fiber Studios. Yeah.
So I went in one day on my lunch break from work, and I was like, I'm looking for Shut Up, Wesley. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, it sold out like the day that they got it in. And I was like, oh crap. I'm like, well, so now what do I do? So I went around, was looking, and I found the 2 books, and then it took me a while to figure out the yarn for the Dire Wolf pattern and all that. So by the time I was getting ready to ring up, one of the girls that worked there came up, and she said, you were looking for Shut Up, Wesley. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, and she had this in her hand, and I was like, oh my god. And she's like, this is the test skein that they made, that they sent, and that she used to name the colorway.
Okay. Pause. I want that to be my job.
Oh, she said it's amazing that she gets to name the colorways. She loves it.
Like, I think Stephen B should have, like, a drawing where you can go in and name a colorway.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I mean...
People do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like...
That's why Betty Ann needs to start doing her dyeing stuff, because if she does the dyeing stuff, we get to name the colorways.
Yeah, so, Dog Dare Knits podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Dog Dare podcast? David Dog Dare had a thing where it was
Bates
Motel inspired colorway, and I can't remember what they ended up naming it, but so she's like, so if I'll sell you this one. It was the test skein or whatever, and I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, I'm
that
super
she went
excited.
And found it in the back and gave it to me. So.
Yeah, it made me really happy.
Yeah. So it was a good present.
It was a very good present. Yeah. Yay.
Cool. All right. So now we'll transition and talk about. See, this is why so we're gonna have to be multiple parts, because it's like.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to mention before we get to that. So in previous episodes, I had talked about a friend of mine who her sister makes. okay, I don't even know how to explain this. Her sister makes a calendar for her family every year and gives it out at Christmas. Or she actually, yeah, I guess she gives it out at Christmas. And the calendar is usually her pictures of her cat in different costumes. So I made a shark costume for this cat. And I took a shark fin from one pattern and a cat sweater from another pattern, and I put them together and made this thing. So Daniel, my friend Daniel had said, "Oh well, you know, I didn't get it to her until Thanksgiving. She's not going to be able to use it this year, you know." And I was like, "Oh well, you know, I mean, it wasn't a big deal, you know, so whatever." So then, come to find out, the picture did end up in the calendar, and I'll have to see if I can find that and insert that. But the calendar, so each month has a different whatever. I think she was doing magazine covers this year. I haven't seen the calendar yet, but the one with the costume, it's like a magazine cover of like Knitter's World or something like that, and it's got the cat on there, and it's like, I'll have to insert it. It's really funny, but that's I don't remember what year or what month it is for the year, but I got this. So it's an autographed picture of the cat in the costume, and it's got some writing there that says, "To my beloved fans at Sweet Tea No Shade, thanks for helping me stay warm and stylish this winter. XOXO Cinder." Cinder is the name of the cat. So
I wish our cats were.
Oh my god, it's so hilarious.
Although you tried it on Linus and Junior, didn't you?
Yeah, and they were like,
yeah, they were not happy. Even Linus, who is pretty... So, Linus wears a collar and has worn it for years without being okay. He's been okay the whole time. Junior, you put it on, it's like...
Yeah, he's like... trying to get the collar off.
So, but even Linus, who is a little more docile, was like, "Get this crap off me."
Yeah, speaking of which, he's over there taking a bath.
Yep.
Alright, so let's talk about finished objects.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did I did 4 ornaments this Christmas, which was a lot of fun. No, 5 ornaments this Christmas, which was fun because I gave one to Ben and Father John, and then I gave one to my mom and David, one to my dad and Shannon, and one to Jason and Lisette.
So, and you kept one for us.
And I kept one for us. Like I did 5 ornaments, I did 5 ornaments. I mean, I know they're not, you know, hard or big or whatever, but I was proud that I got all those done.
Yeah.
You know. Because it took me about, I don't know how many hours, but it took me like 2 sittings to get them, to get each one done. So I don't think I have any other Christmas. No. I don't think I have any other finished objects. I have another finished object, but not around Christmas.
Right. And my other finished object was a hat I made for my mom. It was a pattern on, called Tilted Lumberjack Hat. This is the black and white. And it was by a designer, I don't know.
We can figure
it's
it out.
It's on my Ravelry account. And I used it, I bought 2 skeins.
Sarah Setters.
Okay. So I bought 2 skeins of alpaca at the state fair, and I used them to make them. So the
Minnesota State Fair.
Yeah, the Minnesota. So this, and you'll see it more, but this brown was the base color, and this sort of variegated blue was the complementary color.
Blue, and it's got tans.
Yeah, it was super fun and super cool. And it was
really nice.
It was my first time doing color work extensively, and I was doing it with the Portuguese knitting. So I had two little pins, like here, and it made me look like a crazy person. And the alpaca one's from 5R Alpacas in Clearwater, Minnesota.
They're both from 5R Alpacas.
So, and one was a worsted, grade 2 worsted ply, 4 ply.
They're both worsted.
Oh, so I guess the colorways are brown and green, and that other color. Anyway, it was really, really fun to do. I was really happy about it. You know, it had a few hiccups because the first time I cast it on, I realized that the circular needle I used was too big. And so I was trying to knit it, and it was just like, resisting me the whole time. So we had to transfer it onto a different set of... Actually, we switched out the cables. And it was all...
from our Chow-Goo.
Yeah, it was all kinds of Chow-Goo interchangeable fun. And that eventually worked out. And, it was really fun and fast. And I was really happy with it. Mom was really happy about it. And then...
Well, so he hadn't finished it when we got there. We're going to tell this part?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we were there, and so we were talking to my mom, and she was like, you know what I would... She didn't know I was getting her Christmas. She's like, you know what I'd like next year for Christmas? Is I'd like you to knit me a hat. I'm like,
well,
right, little do you know,
Yeah.
it is being knit up right now. And so we did all these things, like we were staying with my mom, and Scott would go... I would have to pretend to take a nap, because I was like working on it. And then when we were over at my sister's house, we'd had the nephews play lookout while I got a little work on it. And so it was being knit up to Christmas Day, because it went into midnight.
Yeah.
And so I went to bed on Christmas Eve, and I'm like, okay, I've got to finish this up. And so was knitting, and doing really well. Moved it from the circular needles to double pointed needles, which I hate. And was doing the reduction, and everything was working okay. And I'm on the last row where it's got, 8 stitches on 2 needles. And I don't know what I did, but one of the needles just flew away. And and then I just watched the stitches drop.
Well, they didn't unknit. They didn't come undone. They just came off the needle.
Well, no, and then they started to unravel. The drops just kept dropping. And so this is color work, and I don't know how to do this. I'm terrible at doing rescue work. So I was like, Scott, I think was reading in bed, and he came out and he saved Christmas.
I did. It was a Christmas miracle.
It really was. He did an amazing job.
It was like the eight stitches came off. Well, the needle fell out, and then I think only one of them kind of unraveled. So I had to bring that one back up, and then there was some weirdness with the color work and stuff like that. I don't think...
Well, because you can't... The problem is that, for me, with the floats, right, you can't see the back of your work.
Oh, yeah.
And so the way that I can find stitches is by looking and seeing, okay, where is that yarn that isn't attached to a stitch? But with color work, it was all behind the floats.
Right.
And so it was making... me a little crazy, and of course, Christmas was ruined, but then Scott saved it, so. This is why you marry knitters.
Well, I wasn't a knitter when you married me.
No.
No, you married me, and then you turned me into a knitter.
Right, I helped. So. But, it turned out really well. There's a bunch of, we'll post some pictures and stuff like that. I was really happy with it. And
I know that they teach classes. I would like to teach a rescue... Fix Your Mistakes class.
They actually have one I actually looked it up. There's one at 3 Kittens in February.
Oh.
It's an hour class that says, basically, whoops, I dropped a stitch.
Cool.
So
3 Kittens is a local yarn store.
It's like a $10 $1-hour class, which I think I'm going to take.
Oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. Because that's one thing that I feel, it's something I'm not comfortable doing.
Right. All right, so do you have any other Christmas-related finished objects? Because if not, I can show my...
No, I
have a hoe. Can I show my hoe? I'm very proud of my hoe.
Your what?
Half finished object. I call them hoes.
Okay.
Instead of an FO, it's an HO because it's half.
Okay.
Can I show mine?
No.
Okay. So, back when we did our knitting retreat in Thomasville, Georgia, it was put on by the Fuzzy Goat in Thomasville. I bought my first sock blank. And I've always thought they were a cool idea. So this is the sock blank, or what's left of it. I just think they're super cool. It's a super cool idea. And for those of you that don't know, most of you probably do, but for those of you that don't know, it's a piece of machine knitted fabric, 100 grams typically, fingering weight, that people dye or stencil or whatever, and then when you knit it, it doesn't end up looking like this, obviously. It ends up looking, I mean, it's different. I don't because you're pulling it. You pull from one end, and then that's your skein. Is this hank? I bought another one from Jessie, who is Dye Monkey Yarns. I think is her Etsy store, and then she has the Knit Up and Dye podcast. She has some beautiful. She did some beautiful ones at Christmas, and I bought one. She did a custom one for me, which was nice. And then, which was very nice, just because I was like, oh no, it's sold out. And then she made one kind of like as we were Instagramming back and forth, which was fun. I think Mom said she's actually got a sock blank club that she's doing. So that's kind of fun. I might do that. I don't know if it's sold out. I haven't looked into it yet, but and so this was the sock blank, or what's left of it, and then this was my first finished object. So, or my first sock. So you can see it's obviously the same colors, but it's, when you unravel it, it's different. So the thing about this sock is that you can see kind of in the middle of the foot there are kind of a lime green stripes. The sock blank had at that point some lime green, and I think, okay, it's backwards, so I can't figure out. No. Oh my gosh, this is hurting my brain trying to do this backwards. So you can see right there, there's some like lime green stuff. Well, there were bigger splotches of that in the part of the yarn blank the sock blank I've already used. So that's where those yellowy green spots came from. But this is the Rose City. Oh, we've got a friend here. The Rose City roller pattern, which I love. It's on Ravelry. I might even be a free pattern. I can't remember. And then I had some yarn left over from, or no, it's not left over. It's a shawl, yarn I bought for a shawl. So I did the toe in that. But one thing that's different that I with this time is I had never done a rounded toe. I had done the square toe. That comes with the Rose City roller, and so I did a rounded toe, which basically is just a different way to do the decreases. But this, so fits great. It's a heel flap and gusset, which I really like. Do we have company?
He was making noise.
He was making noise. So so that's my first sock, and then okay, what am I doing wrong here? That's the leg part of the sock form. What am I doing wrong? So that's the first sock. So I'm excited. That turned out really, really great. And I think I did it in 3 days or something, which it usually takes me over a month to do a pair of socks. And then this is where I'm at with the second sock. So I've gotten the cuff, and then I've done the heel flap, and I've picked up, and then the heel turn, and then I've picked up the gusset stitches, and basically once those decreases are done, then I just have to knit the foot and the toe. So that's coming along. What I've discovered is John hates double pointed needles. I'm obsessed with double pointed needles.
I don't hate them, they're so futzy.
Well, for heel flap and gusset, I love them. And in fact, so the needles that I'm using are Knit Picks. I thought they were Knit Picks Dreams, and maybe they are. But I've broken 2 of the needles. There's nothing wrong with the needles. One, I sat on it, and the other one, I was knitting too tightly, and it's a little needle. It's a sock, it's a 0 or a 1, and I broke it because I was and I shouldn't have done that. But this is so I went online and I bought a set of the 5-inch Harmony wood double pointed needle set, and they're rainbow wood, so they're really beautiful, and I just love how smooth they are, and I just love knitting. Now, one thing I will say is that once I'm done with the gusset decreases and I'm just doing the foot, which is just knit till you get to the toe, I will switch from the double pointed needles to the 9-inch ChowGoo 9-inch circulars, which people hate. because they're like, oh my god, it's like knitting like this. But I love that's what my mom taught me to knit a sock on, and so I think that's just what I'm comfortable with. But I can knit really quickly with 9-inch circulars. You just never, with the double pointed needles, you have to switch needles. With the 9-inch circulars, you just keep going and going and going and going in the round. And so, yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm just kind of like, I didn't knit socks for a while, and I just became obsessed with and I think the Rose City Rollers pattern, I think other people talk about how great it is. I'm going to use it, I think, whenever I need to do. Mm-hmm. And I like the way the rounded toe fits on my foot a little better than the square toe. So, yeah. So that's that. Yeah, we're going to wrap up the part 1 here.
Right.
And then we will have a part 2
shortly. Yay!
Yay! So thank you so much for watching, and I'll keep watching because I'll have some, if you want to. I'm not forcing you to, but we'll have some stuff either from our trip to House on the Rock or funny stuff with the nephews or whatever after this part. So.
See, Linus is super bored. He's like, this is
I'm outie.
Done. This is the worst. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
What is that thing?